Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel where we dive into the fascinating world of coins and currency. If you're a coin collector, a history buff, or just curious about the coins in your pocket, you're in the right place. Today, we're exploring the 1974 Kennedy half dollar, a coin that many people overlook, but it actually has a lot of interesting history behind it. Plus, we'll talk about its circulated value, what collectors look for, and whether it's worth keeping. The Kennedy half dollar was first introduced in 1964, just months after the tragic assassination of President John F. Kennedy in November 1963. The U.S. Mint moved fast to honor the fallen president, replacing the Franklin half dollar with a brand new design. By 1974, the Kennedy half dollar was already in full circulation. That year, it was made primarily for commerce, although half dollars were starting to fall out of everyday use due to inflation and the popularity of smaller denominations like quarters and dimes. The 1974 version was struck at 3 U.S. mints: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, D mint mark; and San Francisco, S mint mark for proof coins. On the obverse or front side, we see a left-facing portrait of President John F. Kennedy, designed by Gilroy Roberts. The word Liberty wraps around the top, while In God We Trust is split by the base of Kennedy's neck, and the date 1974 appears below. Flip it over to the reverse, and you'll see a modified presidential seal, an eagle holding an olive branch and arrows, surrounded by 50 stars. This design was created by Frank Gasparro, and it symbolizes the power and peace of the American presidency. The edge of the coin is reeded, and the coin itself is made of a copper-nickel-clad composition. No silver in these unless you're looking at a special issue. Let's take a look at how many of these coins were made Philadelphia Mint, over 201 million Denver Mint, over 79 million San Francisco Mint. Proofs over 2.6 million. That's a huge number, which means the 1974 Kennedy half dollar is not rare in circulated condition. But the good news is, if you're just starting your collection, it's one of the most affordable and accessible ways to get into half-dollar collecting. So now the big question: what's the circulated value of a 1974 Kennedy half dollar? In general, if your coin is in average circulated condition, it's worth around 50 cents to $1. That's right, face value or just slightly above. However, some coins in better condition, like almost uncirculated AU or extremely fine XF grades, can sell for $1.50 to $3. If you have an uncirculated example or a coin pulled fresh from a mint roll, you could see values from $4 up to $6 depending on the condition and mint mark. Proof coins from San Francisco with an S mint mark in perfect condition can go for $5 to $10, and sometimes even more if graded by PCGS or NGC. While most 1974 Kennedy half dollars are common, there are some errors and varieties that can boost their value. Look out for double die obverse DDO varieties, where the lettering on In God We Trust or Liberty looks slightly doubled. These are rare, but if found, they could be worth $20 to $100 plus depending on grade. Also check the edges. Sometimes the clad layers separate or show unique coloration. These are minor errors but can still interest collectors. The 1974 Kennedy half dollar might not be worth hundreds of dollars, but it carries historical significance, a beautiful design, and is a great entry point for new collectors. If you have one, keep it safe, and if you find a bunch in a roll or at a bank, take a closer look. You never know when you might spot a hidden gem. The Kennedy half dollar has a powerful and emotional origin. It was created in 1964, just months after the assassination of President John F. Kennedy in November 1963. The United States was in shock, and to honor the memory of the beloved president, Congress acted swiftly to create a coin bearing his image. Within days of Kennedy's death, plans began to replace the Franklin half dollar with a new design featuring Kennedy. First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy approved the half-dollar denomination as a tribute, since her husband admired the Franklin design it replaced. Chief engraver Gilroy Roberts designed the obverse, front, featuring a left-facing portrait of Kennedy, while Frank Gasparro crafted the reverse, which includes the presidential seal. The first Kennedy half dollars were struck in 90% silver in 1964 and were immensely popular with the public. Millions were saved as keepsakes, and many never even entered circulation. But by 1971, the rising price of silver led the U.S. Mint to stop using silver in regular coinage. The half dollars, including the 1974 issue, were then made with a copper-nickel-clad composition, a copper core sandwiched between nickel layers. This made them more affordable and practical for mass circulation. By the time 1974 arrived, Kennedy half dollars were still being struck in large numbers, but they were used less and less in daily commerce. Inflation and changing public habits meant that the half-dollar wasn't as common in wallets and cash registers anymore. Despite this, the U.S. Mint struck over 280 million coins in 1974 across its Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco facilities. Another interesting piece of history is that the U.S. Mint was already preparing for the nation's bicentennial in 1976. Special reverse designs would be released on the quarter, half-dollar, and dollar coins. So, 1974 was one of the last years of the original Kennedy half-dollar reverse before the short-lived bicentennial design took over in 1975-76. While the 1974 edition isn't rare, it's still a piece of U.S. history, honoring one of the most iconic presidents. It reflects a time of national mourning, pride, and transition, both politically and numismatically. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, give it a big thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos about coins, currency, and collecting. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an update, and let me know in the comments below. Do you have a 1974 Kennedy half-dollar? Did you find it in circulation, or inherit it from someone? Until next time, keep collecting, keep learning, and always check your change. See you in the next video. Take care and happy coin hunting!